We good?
Good.
We're talking about leverage today, right?
Yes, we are.
Leverage and the goods and the bads. There's not a lot of bads, but I mean, it could be
there are
bad.
bad leverages too.
There are bad leverages with interest rates, right?
Right.
Let's talk about the bad first, since we're already talking
Hold on,
about
before
it.
we do that, let's talk about what is leverage.
What
Like
is leverage?
definition, so for
That's
the viewer
why.
can
You want to define it? Go ahead.
leverage using someone else's money.
Exactly.
Is
That's the
what is
definition I would
leverage?
use.
Well, my definition of leverage is that you're using small portion of your money to lift heavy portion of one thing. So let's say if I'm using, let's say 10% down to get 90% loan to acquire 100% of the property, that's a leverage.
So yeah, my definition is close to similar. It's like using someone else's money to buy an asset, and owning that whole asset, right? And using someone else's money to own that whole asset. So that's leverage, definitely. And leverage, how is it going to help in real estate? How will it help in real estate?
A lot. I mean, real estate is all about leverage. Especially if you're talking about stocks, you can't really leverage unless you're playing shorts or whatnot. But if you pay, let's say, 500, let's say you want to buy $500 worth of Tesla stocks, then you're buying $500 worth of stocks. You're not buying $5,000 worth of stocks. But with the real estate, if you're paying, let's say, 10% down, that means you're owning the other 90% of it. So that's the beauty of real estate. But of course, it could definitely hurt you as well.
Well, leverage, you're right. You're right. Definitely in one term is everyone uses leverage. Even the home buyer that's buying a home to live in, they're getting leverage from the bank. An investor that's, using leverage is going to get like a loan to cover some of the costs, and also a construction loan to cover some of the construction costs.
Sure.
That they could buy it straight out cash, but that's not using any leverage. And then they have all their money out there at risk. Right. And that's the, negative part of not using leverage, right? I mean, like, so, all your money's out there.
So is it better to put in more down payment so you can have less leverage? That could be a question too.
That could be a question too. It depends on how much is in your bank and how much work do you want on your table, right?
But I mean, how do you determine how much of down payment you should? Let's just say you have enough down payment for 100% of the purchase.
Yeah, you have the whole purchase.
Let's say you have sitting in the bank account. Okay. Should you use the entire cash to purchase the property?
Oh, house.
Yeah.
Okay. Now it depends on, do you have a full-time job? Is your business in real estate? You have to ask yourself those questions, because I know people that have a full-time job. They're not looking to buy another house. They see an investment. They see a house that they want to purchase. They can put all their money in that house. They don't need leverage. There's some people that just don't need leverage, because unless they have an opportunity for the other 90% of that money that can make them some more money, because sitting in the bank money doesn't make money, right? So the smartest way to do that, if you want to use 100% of your own money, leverage from yourself by opening up another LLC as a bank for yourself to take a loan of 90% from yourself and pay yourself the interest. You understand? I mean, that's a way to get away from the whole bank, and also using all your money to make money. Because now you're using your money to charge yourself 10% interest, and you're going to make that with your money that's sitting in the bank. Instead of, that's one way to get away with it if you don't have other investments to put your money in.
My answer would be, let's say if you have enough cash to purchase a property, all cash.
Okay.
My answer to your question would be, how expensive is your money?
That's a good question. Explain that a little bit. I understand, but I don't think everyone does.
So let's say if your money is making, let's say, I don't know, 5% return.
How valuable is your skills on making money?
Exactly.
Yes.
That's exact terms.
I got you. Go ahead.
So let's say if your money is sitting in a bank CD or mutual funds, let's say your annual
1%.
return is say 1%, 3%, then is it better for you to use that cash, maybe.
Can you make more than 1% a year?
Because if you're to take out the loan right now, let's say 6%, then you're actually paying 6% to you, and you're forgetting about a chance of making 3% return, right? So let's say if you were to borrow money while your money is sitting in the bank account, if you're paying 6% interest to borrow that money while you're making 3% with the money you're having in this bank account, then it's better to just buy it all cash.
That's a good
I
that's the
agree,
good
yeah.
that's the definite thing. Go ahead. Tell me.
I mean, I think what he just explained is not everybody wants to use other people's money.
Exactly.
They don't have the need.
Not everybody wants
Yeah.
to use, yeah.
If they're making 1% a year, they better use their own money.
Exactly.
Because then it doesn't even make sense.
Right.
Now, someone like you and I, well, we make 30 to 50% return on investment
Right.
on our every dollar that we invest.
How much? How many percent?
30 to 50%.
Okay.
So every dollar we invest, we're going to make 30 cents to 50 cents. This is a skill we have.
Right.
So now we want to have every dollar disposable to use for that task.
Exactly.
So we want to put the least amount of money in every project so we can do many projects that diversifies us. And that's because our cost of our money is expensive.
Exactly.
So now we want to take that $1 million that rich person has that buys one house. We want to take it and buy 10 houses because then we can spread out the wealth, we can diversify it, and we can make more money by leveraging.
Yeah, it could be a nerve-wracking for many different people. 'Cause-
100%. Yeah. I mean, it has to be slow progress to get to that level, of course. And you need the skill, the contractors, the ability to buy that many houses, the understanding of what a deal is, how to acquire a deal.
Right.
I mean, and then having the lender in
Yes,
place that
lender
has
in
$20
place.
million that is ready to give to you, right? I mean,
like people will be, they won't be able to go to sleep. Let's say if they have
That's what I
10
thought you were saying,
houses with a 90% loan. So let's just say they're buying 10 $1 million properties. That's already $9 million in loans.
yes.
People are gonna cry when they go home. They're gonna be crying. Oh man, I have $9 million loan. How am I gonna pay for it? They're not thinking about the profit or appreciation it's gonna get, but they're worried about the monthly obligation that they have.
Yeah, you remember last podcast that we were talking about a very similar subject, and I asked Wonnie, so I don't think you sleep. It's like, no, I just give it to all my employees. What he said.
Right.
I mean,
But I'll be worried the
was
employees will
funny.
drop the ball. You know what I
Right.
mean? That big task.
But you said so out of those 10 projects, you said at least 8 of the project is making profit, right?
Right.
You said 2 is sometimes don't make.
Right. Let's say one could be negative, one could be break
Even,
even, and
so,
let's say eight could
okay.
be making money.
That's a numbers game where he's playing, at
Okay,
that
the more you
point.
do, more you're gonna make. You mean number
Yeah,
3?
I mean, the more you do, the more you're gonna make. Where I mean, he has 100 properties. He has that margin of error a little bit more than anyone else, right? I mean, like I have 20 properties. My margin of error is a little bit shorter, and like
I see
going
what you
back to leverage, and with my 20 properties that I own, of course, even though I bring on a partner, I still leverage fully, of course, and I'm only invested maybe $1 million to own $20 million worth of real estate.
Right.
So I control $20 million of real estate for $1 million, and I have the option of, if it sells correctly, if my whole pro forma works out of fixing the property up and selling it at the right price, I have the potential of making $2 million from that $1 million investment.
Sure.
So that's almost a 200%, return on investment. There's some losses that happen. Of course, there's some partner payouts. So that's why it comes down to like a 50% ROI on every dollar I invest, because then it's spread amongst all the properties. So some, like he said, some will not make money, some will, but that's why we do multiples. And and experience is the answer.
I think so.
For the answer that you had about like how do you sleep at night. It's experience and going through the process so many times.
Also, I
Being
think
comfortable.
personality too.
Yeah, I think
Well,
you're
you
right.
get numb to it.
I think so.
Yeah.
No, because
think
she's
that's
right
what
about
that's too, yeah,
personality
yeah.
100%, because I see people freaking out. and they're in this business, and they got their hand on their head, and they are not sleeping. And I see it, and they have multiple properties. So personality helps you get through it.
Sure.
Changing your mindset is what I call personality in my eyes.
Right.
Mindset, because that can be adjusted, and that's what probably happened to Wani. I'm sure he worried a lot in the beginning.
I cried on end of March of 2020.
Yeah, I mean, I did.
I cried
too.
once.
Oh, you mean the
Oh my God, he
COVID
cried
time?
once.
That's when the COVID happened, right?
Yeah, when COVID happened and
Oh,
when the
no.
property, I sold
I
one
wish I could
property.
have been there. I would have dogged him, man.
You mean
I actually
market
cried.
totally freeze and crash and you didn't know what to do?
No, I actually sold the property and I made negative $800,000.
80?
$800,000.
Oh,
So he did
I
an
lost
investment, and
$800,000.
he lost $800,000.
Yeah.
because of the COVID.
Yeah, it's a
and all
bad
the
investment. It
environment.
might not have been because of COVID. It might have been just,
Okay,
and it probably
Yeah,
was because of COVID.
Yeah, it was.
Who knows?
I mean, if I sell it now,
I know. She
I'll make
kept it for like a few
$800,000.
months.
I
right?
should have kept it.
Right.
Anyways,
Like 3
but-
months, things changed.
I mean, you know what my what is it? New Year's goal was of this year?
No.
Increasing my
debt.
debt by
Debt?
debt.
Oh,
Increasing my debt amount by $100 million by the end of the year.
you mean that-
Increasing. I'm
that-
not talking about getting $100 million loan. I'm talking about increasing my loan amount by
okay. You mean your
$100 million.
like your loan allowance? Is that what you're saying?
No, we got allowance of, and
I got but
and
just that
someone will give us $100 million.
increasing the debt
His debt,
amount.
his loan to value,
Loan to
his
value.
LTV, right?
Loan to
LTV and
value.
loan amount, like the amount of debt that
So
I
that means basically
accumulate.
you're doing a lot more projects. Is what you're
Exactly.
Trying to, okay, all right.
So I mean to some people it's just doesn't make sense. Like why would you gain more debt?
People want
That's
to
your
earn
goal.
more
That
money.
was my goal.
Basically, increase volume is what you're trying
Exactly.
to do.
Some
Right.
people wouldn't
Increase
understand it,
Right.
but
I understand.
yeah, you would understand
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I
But
see what you
my goal was to increase my debt, the
Okay.
amount of debt. And who
Most
goes
people-
for increasing amount
Most
of
people
debt?
want to increase their money. No one wants to increase their debts. His goal is to increase his debt. So it sounds oxymoronic, like
Right.
it sounds the opposite of what you would want. You know what I mean? Like, but it is actually the smartest thing to do, and it's what they don't teach you in school to get more to use leverage.
I see what you mean. So did you? It's
Yeah,
almost
he is
September.
going to, and
Very
he-
close to it.
Good, good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's good.
I'm sure Wani has been growing consistently because of leverage. And he also brought me on the leverage game because I was buying houses. Okay, now we're talking about risk. We're talking about risk and leverage. It's the same subject. You know, I used to buy houses cash, and it's actually you think that is less risky to buy it all cash. You own the whole house. It's actually more risky.
Because
You have all your money in this one property.
Exactly.
You have more likely of something happen. Like today, if I have 10 properties, 2 or 1 will not make money or break even. So now I have all my money in this one property, cash. I might not make $1. And guess what? I get sued. I'm responsible for it. Anything could happen. Earthquake could happen. All my money is in this property. It's gone. I was the biggest risk taker when I didn't use leverage. So this is another misconception. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't understand, and I thought about it, and I was like, hey, well, I don't want to pay these mortgage rates that I could just use as my profit at the end. Instead of paying a mortgage, instead of paying a down payment, I could just buy the whole property, and I can make all the profit. Yes, your ROI will be a good ROI. You will make more cash at the end,
Right.
but your ROI will be so low comparative to using leverage.
Exactly.
But most of people who's listening to this podcast is not a really investor. They're mostly individuals who's trying to get into real estate investment, I'm guessing.
Sure.
So at their point of view, first of all, I don't think they have that much money and they don't really have a money to split in that many properties. So maybe we should give some advice for
Well, if you have
audience.
$100,000,
Okay, 100,000 or
is it better?
200,000.
Is it better?
Yeah, that's a better,
goal,
better. Yeah,
right?
sure.
I mean,
My
like,
more
first
realistic.
flip, I spent $20,000.
yes.
$20,000. Okay.
Yeah.
It was a different time, I'm
Right,
sure,
different
and it was
time.
different prices
Long
in
time
real
ago.
estate.
Yeah, I know,
Chill.
but you could
20
still.
years ago.
I mean, if you
How
look
old are
around,
you? You're gonna age yourself.
That's
You
when
could-
like before,
you could definitely find $200,000 properties.
So
Now?
another
Yes.
option.
Now
Another
it's not
option
easy.
is get out of state.
I know.
Look out of state.
But like even that will scare people. Like
No, I mean if there's some people are watching this that live out of state.
I just bought a property, 1 bedroom, no, 2 bedroom. Was it 2 bedroom? 2 bedroom condo in Long Beach. I paid $300,000.
2 bedroom,
2 bedrooms.
like probably like 670 square foot.
No, like
It's
it's like 780 square feet.
Okay.
Yeah,
a
so
little
there's
better.
still affordable housing.
Yeah,
Of course, we're
in Long
talking
Beach.
about a small city of
just
Los
bought it.
Angeles.
For is it
a
rental
big city.
property or to flip?
To flip,
Oh, to flip.
it's worth about
We're
450.
talking about big numbers here. Of course, you're right. Come to our realization of $100,000. If you even have $50,000, you are eligible to get into the real estate because you're gonna use leverage. Now you have to use leverage when you only have a small amount of money.
Right.
When I was talking about that first investment I did, that I bought that one house, that was all my money, 250,000 house in San Bernardino, and I didn't use leverage. But it was actually the biggest mistake I did.
But by the way, let's say if someone who's watching this
Yeah.
or listening to this, let's say they have $100,000, they want to buy two property. For the loan part, are they okay with the loan?
I still think if they haven't done this before,
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, if it's a investment property, you could put 25% down and purchase it.
And even if they have more than one or two properties, should be okay.
but
to
here's
six.
the thing.
You get a permission
Now
loan,
it depends on this guy that has $100,000. What's his experience? I wouldn't recommend get two properties right off the
No.
bat.
Right.
Right? I mean, like, so we're gonna talk $100,000, no experience. That person's probably gonna. I would recommend look for a house that's already rent ready, fixed up. Okay, now you don't have that problem of getting contractors, getting all this. Put a down payment of 3%. Get an FHA loan. Get an FHA loan or a 203K loan. Some kind of ability, or partner with someone that can get it,
And then rent it out.
and then rent it out. If you have no experience in real estate, that's the only route you can take.
But if you put like low interest rate, your mortgage will be pretty high.
No, not with a 3%. 3% down FHA is the lowest you can get
Right.
interest rate.
Right, but I mean, your
Monthly
mortgage
payment will be more?
payment, yeah, monthly payment
course.
will be pretty high. So I don't know what that will cover. by
You have to
rent.
do your numbers, of course,
Right,
and do
right.
your cap rate and make sure everything works out. But I recommend you would go out of state. You know what I mean? Like, and out of state, it's gonna work every time.
Or
If
You
you
have-
know
go
your
to San
area.
Bernardino.
Do you? San Bernardino.
Go to San Bernardino.
San
That's very cheap,
Bernardino, a
yeah.
little bit further, and Riverside. You just got to make sure your numbers work, what your rents in the area are, if it can make up your rent, your income versus your expenses.
Right.
You know,
What other state do you guys like? Do you like?
Texas, Florida,
How's Utah?
Nevada.
Nevada.
How's Utah? Have you been?
I don't know. I've been to Utah, but I never thought about
Utah
buying
doesn't
it.
have any tax really benefits, I don't think. So not, and then it's just not a lot of population, I don't think,
And Vegas is good because it's really close to us.
and it's growing.
Yeah, it's growing, and you could definitely buy a single family house for like $200,000
Yeah.
Still?
Yeah.
Wow.
if you look
Yeah.
carefully. Yeah. So I just got in a contract for what 1,400 square feet single family house.
And how much
It's a
is that property?
North
How much
Nevada. I
is the
think,
purchase?
Purchase was like 230,
And how much are you leveraging? Since the subject is leveraging, let's talk about it. Go ahead.
90%.
90%. Are you getting a construction loan also?
I am getting $50,000 of construction loan.
All right, let's talk about the numbers of leveraging. How much is your down payment?
So 230, 240 was my purchase price. So I'm putting down 24,000.
24,000 is his down payment. What's your interest rate a month or a year? So then we can annualize
Yearly
it.
interest rate is 7.5.
7.5. So that's broken down into monthly payments. It's a 1-year term on your loan, correct?
So it's a $200,000 loan. How much am I paying? About
Interest rate 7.5%. How many points are you paying your
$1,400.
lender?
About $1,400 is I'm paying.
Okay.
Yeah, monthly. And then property taxes probably like $300.
So you're gonna pay $1,400 a month to own this home, 100% of this home,
Right.
which you're only putting in $27,000 to purchase it, and that's the beauty of leverage. You purchased a home for $27,000. You pay $1,400 to keep up the note. He's going to fix it up and try to add some value to it. And then he's going to sell it for a profit, pay the loan off, and then the profit is his, pay himself off, of course.
I rented an Airbnb, like when I went to Vegas. Okay, I paid what, $200 a night?
Okay.
Single family home?
Yeah, single family home. I think it was $250. But after cleaning fees and all that
Service fee,
fees
yeah.
and service fees, I think I ended up paying like $600 for 3 nights. No, 2 nights and 3 days. So basically, it's like almost $300 a night.
So now he wouldn't even sell the house. I see that he's already thinking about Airbnb-ing it
Even if
as an exit strategy.
yeah, I mean, if I were to, let's say, leave it vacant for 10 days, 20 days out of a month, I rent it out, then that's already $4,000.
So now he has options. He can rent it out, sell it, whatever he decides, he has options with his 10%, $27,000 purchase because he used leverage. And then he just has to pay $1,400 a month for that year. And he has a year to fix it and figure out what he's going to do exit strategy wise, which he'll probably Airbnb it, make that income that can in 5 days pay his mortgage.
Yeah, that's a
and
good
the rest
example.
of the
Yeah.
25 days,
Yeah.
he's making profit.
So I
good
have an
example,
option.
yeah.
I could sell it for, $350 or rent it out and collect, let's say, net profit of what, $600, $700 a month
For cash flow. Yeah.
out of what, $20,000, $30,000 of investment,
I would choose the
good,
cash flow.
yeah.
which is not
Sounds
bad
like a
either.
good-
So, but then he has to refinance it since his loan terms are
Right.
just 1 year. But he will just be the buyer for the property and he'll sell it to himself with another LLC.
Just refinance it, lower the rates, then my monthly mortgage goes down. Let's say, I don't know, maybe $200.
Someone's gonna question this. I have the 230,000. Why just pay cash and avoid all those fees?
You could, but then you don't have the
So
money
then,
to
then
buy other
it's
property.
not leverage. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
You're just using your money.
Yeah.
Now that will go back to the step one of ask yourself how much your money is worth. You see what I'm saying? Like, can you,
Right.
is your money sitting in the bank making 0.5%? It's 100% spend that, all that money in that house. It's going to be very risky. I would still say leverage. You know why? Because then all your money's in the house. You'll be in like my shoes when I did my first investment. It's scary. It's actually more risk, I think, than using leverage.
So the answer to Downey's question is that why don't you just buy it all cash? I mean, you just have to compare the numbers. If I were to spend $30,000 to acquire the property, and if I'm making, let's say, $600 of a net profit a month, versus buying it all cash, spending, let's say, $280,000 into it, and collecting net of what, $3,000.
It's gonna the numbers aren't gonna be a lot of cash flow.
Yeah, I mean, $3,000 is a lot, but how much are you committing into the project, which is close to $300,000? You're collecting $3,000 versus me. I'm only spending like $30,000 and collecting $600.
Yeah, that's a good scenario. Like, look at the two ways
good.
of this guy's doing it. The guy that spent $300 to buy the home, or the guy that spent $30,000 to buy the home.
That's a good example. to
Yeah,
compare,
and like this guy's making so much more money, and he's sitting on all that extra money to make any decision he
sure,
wants.
and buy another property.
Buy another property, buy
stocks
another
or
rental,
something, yeah.
buy some stocks, buy anything that can make it more than that 0.5% of interest that he's making from the bank.
So if I were to like buy 10 more properties, then I'll be collecting, let's say, $600 on each property. Then I'll be collecting $6,000, while the other guy who bought it for all cash is collecting $4,000. So the cash flow is a lot more. Of course, there's a lot more headache. There's a lot more
a
management.
lot more
goes in.
work. That's with
More
everything.
work.
Yeah.
The two of them might not even make it, but still better than the.
But now I have 10 properties that's appreciating in value.
And you
instead of
have
one.
less to risk out in the market.
And while I have all these 10 projects going on, so I have things will be much cheaper. Like management will be much cheaper on, controlling
Multiple.
10 properties rather than one property.
That's right.
And other repairs will be cheaper. And then, tax will be cheaper. It's not necessarily cheaper, but actually you have to spend less time into each project for the taxes and the time-wise, economy of scale.
Sure.
That's gonna kick in.
So I think guys should give advice to people who's listening to this. Like,
Not too many people like the idea of having debt. They
Yeah,
don't
but
like
you know
it.
what?
just
You
don't be
know,
afraid and go for it.
exactly. The smartest people in the world have the most amount of debt. Okay, and they don't teach you this in school. It's like against the grain.
Well, it's just that people don't understand the good debt versus bad debt.
Yeah.
That's a problem. Like,
They get confused. Credit card is
Yeah.
bad debt.
well, even if you were to use a credit card, let's say
You
if you're
could use it
buying-
for good things,
Right.
but credit card is not known as good debt.
Generally,
didn't
it's a bad
know.
debt.
It's a
yeah.
bad debt. It gives you
Generally.
access to your money that you can spend at stores. I think it's bad.
I
Okay.
mean, when I was in
Generally.
college, my parents will tell me, "Hey, don't get a credit card.
Exactly.
Don't use it." I mean, my friends were telling me, "Don't use credit cards." But I mean, it's right to a sense, right?
Build your
Because
credit.
You
It's a
don't
good thing.
know because you can't tell the difference between bad debt and good debt yet. So they're just keep telling you don't use a credit card. But problem is, you need to be educated whether which one's good and which one's not.
And you need a credit card to build your credit. So there is some pluses in credit cards. If you know how to use them, I use the credit card to fix up a whole home.
Yeah.
Like if you use it correctly, it can be valuable. But this is why it's bad debt, and because it's such high interest rates. It's such accessible money, and people don't have accounting. You know what I mean? Like they don't know how much they make and how much they spend, and people can make a mistake. A car, if you're using it for your job and Uber, it's good debt, right? I mean, if you're making more than you're paying in interest and the car, it's good debt.
I've seen taxi drivers, their arm hanging out on the driver's side with a Rolex.
With a Rolly, huh?
It's fake.
And that's a
what's-
bad debt.
What's
I
bad
mean,
debt?
it seems like based
When
on
you have a Rolex,
A Rolex is bad debt? Well, how do you know he didn't pay for it? I mean, like, bad debt.
actually some watches, it's a good investment. The
Yeah,
price goes
there
up.
you
yeah.
go. There you go.
But by the way, so
I
when
could buy a house with that Rolex.
by the way,
Yeah,
I mean,
you
no,
could
a lot
with
of people
leverage.
actually
if you
buy
leverage.
Rolex for investment. You could actually resell it for much more than what you bought for.
But there's no
That's-
cash flow.
There's no cash flow. If you sell a lot, maybe. No, there is a fee for it.
Here's the thing: you're not leveraging when you buy Rolex, and you're not cash flowing.
That's right.
Like
It's not
real estate.
paying rent. Now it's you're saying it's an investment as it's gonna gain value over time, like a classic and
Right.
stuff like this. This is like a stock.
Mm.
You should
Yeah, it's a
invest in the
stock.
stock market. It's exactly like that, because it might go up in time, it might go down too. Who
There's
knows?
there's
Same
no
with-
leverage. It's 1-to-1.
All right, let's recap. Mindset is one thing, and education is another thing that we all have to do first before using leverage. Because I mean, you're not just gonna jump in and get a loan, right? You need to be educated, and who's gonna give that person a loan if they're not educated?
Right.
Right? I mean, they need to qualify for loans, right? And another little tip: partner with someone that's already qualified. If
That's
you,
easier.
yeah. If you're
Less
just
risk.
starting out, partner with the qualified.
Isn't that what we're
partner.
doing in the company?
That's what we do at this
That's what we're
company.
doing, yeah.
We have a qualified person right here that we all partner with to make our life a lot easier, right?
Yeah, I should invite the Wani to my new YouTube channel.
Well,
And
get him an
introduce your
invite.
company and introduce Kim Real Estate and what
All right,
we do.
let's-
A lot of people don't know.
Yeah.
No, they don't know. Well, some people don't know. Not everyone.
see.
Yeah.
Let's wrap it up. What time is it?
Yeah, it's a 7:20, but good debt and bad
7:20.
debt. We have to wrap up that part. But I
Mindset.
think, yeah, all of that. But good debt is the debt that you talked about.
Right.
Brings more
Good
profit.
debt is
Yeah.
using it
Bad
for
debt is just debt that you just have to pay.
that you're using for
pay
your
it.
personal
Right.
items.
It
life.
doesn't help with your asset or anything.
Buying
so-
chrome wheels for your car.
Well,
That's what it is, yeah.
Yes. buying
Very
buying
simple.
luxuries is what we call it, right? Buying personal items.
Mm.
Now this is on credit. That's bad debt.
Right.
Now if you buy personal items with cash, it's not bad debt. Now here's bad debt also: buying food with credit.
It's bad.
Absolutely.
Why?
You're paying interest on that.
Oh no,
Yeah,
but you,
yeah,
you don't pay interest if you pay and by end of the
Who
month.
pay
no?
when you buy it on credit card? You can't pay it usually at the end of the month, right? I mean, you're buying it on
Really?
credit in the
I
first
didn't know
place.
that. I mean,
I mean, that's how they get in trouble.
Ah.
That's how you get down the road of creating bad debt. You start buying personal items. Look, I spend everything on credit, but you're right. I pay it off every month. That's how
too.
I keep it good,
Right,
right?
me
And that's
too.
how we keep it. I keep our credit good because we're getting leverage. We can't get this leverage if our credit's bad.
Let me tell you how rich people spend their money. Let's say rich people want to get luxury goods, but they don't want to pay out of pocket. What do? This is what I heard. I mean, this is what I read
Go ahead.
on Rich Dad Poor Dad. Robert Kiyosaki goes out and buys, let's say he wants to buy a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
And it's gonna cost him, let's say, $4,000 a month. Then he goes out and buy fourplex.
I got you.
That'll cash flow $4,000 a month.
To pay
then he
for that
goes out
Lamborghini.
and buy a Lamborghini.
Ah,
Have that property pay for
your
his
assets.
I
Lamborghini.
see. That's a very
Pay for
smart
your
one.
luxuries.
Pay-
Now, that's a good
yeah.
scenario.
Instead of increasing the debt, monthly liability first, and then try to make up for it, which is what everybody does, he will actually create an income, an asset that'll
That
pay
pays for his
the-
liability.
Pay for the liability.
Also, what I noticed is that when you use the word rich, like let's say just in LA, because we're in LA, California, right? Everyone thinks little, it seems like there's a huge gap. Like you might think what
There
it's
is.
rich,
Yeah,
you
it's
might think
personality
like
and
how much do
person.
you need to make in a year to call it as a rich, right?
It's person
Like
to
your
person.
number might be like completely different from mine or his.
I saw data. I
You
think
know.
it was like in LA, I think it was more than $250,000 a year.
See, like when you say
that's
that
with
number,
taxes. Like if you
Right.
qualify at a top rate of taxes, that you're considered rich, and you are, I think, because you have choices. You can do whatever a lot of people
so
cannot
if you
do.
make 250 a year or more,
That's like a
you could
standard.
consider as a rich.
Standard.
Yeah, I think
Now-
it's a pretty standard. is
Now,
what I'm trying to
let me tell you, it's about personality. There's some people that are rich with $50,000 a year because the way they live. It's about preferences. At the end of the day, some people feel rich with
No, we're actually talking
different-
about number. I mean, because you know the living expense here in LA. and
Okay.
So, but I just realized that recently that number, when you say rich, when he said rich, when I say rich, the number for year is complete. It could be very
In
different.
California, with $250,000, you're median class. I promise you,
I
you're
don't
not
know
rich.
about me. I mean, I don't know about California, but here in LA and Orange County, like Southern
you're poor.
California, 250.
You're median
You're
class.
rich. I
You're
mean,
rich.
there's a different levels of rich, but I'm
Yeah,
just
you
I
have to
noticed
make
that there,
that. Otherwise, you can't even buy $1 million house, which is median house price.
unless you got some money from your parents or something. Yeah. A lot of people do. Okay, I mean, it's just something to think about.
That's depressing.
I know,
Yeah,
right?
very. So
I know.
leverage. Let's stay on
Sorry.
subject. It's okay. So mindset, I would say, understanding your risk tolerance, understanding how much money you can make, right? Understanding your value of money, understanding having good credit, because you can't get leverage without good credit, right? This is important.
Right.
What else? What else can you add to that?
We have to talk about hard money leverage,
Yeah.
soon.
So
We did,
Yeah.
didn't we?
Yeah.
yeah,
did we?
so I'm having a hard money lender next week.
Okay.
Okay.
Here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What is it? So we're gonna cover that part.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about hard money loans next week.
So how to use the hard money
How to
as a
use
leverage?
it, what are the terms, or when can you use it, and how to use it.
Who's qualified and
Who's
all of
qualified
Okay,
and
I
all
should
that.
attend.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, a guest will be joining us next week.
All right, then we'll continue this subject next week, right?
Yeah. And then maybe we'll talk about regular loans after that, maybe.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Conventional and FHA.
Right.
Yeah,
And
because
next week
not
about
everybody
hard
has
money.
a cash, and we might have to use hard money.
Or even SBA.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Isn't SBA for business only?
Yeah.
Hard money next week, right?
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right, that's fine.
All right then.
That's good. Is that the run through? You want to go through everything or no?
No.
We're good.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Wrap it.
thank you for joining us. We'll see you guys